Okay, alright. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Like, it's dead on Twitter, apparently, and that is, like, a massive problem. And, you know, he was kind of dismissive of the game, like, he complained about it being astroturfed, yada yada yada. I don't even care that much about that. What I found interesting when he talked about that was that he sort of took it as a proof that the game is not as good as everyone was saying because nobody's talking about it anymore. And this is a sentiment I've kind of like heard so many times already in regards to video games, and I just think it's kind of I think it's kind of weird. I think this is not a good sentiment to have, frankly, because the reason why it's not a good sentiment to have is that the value of any piece of media, right? I think if you want to determine that, you need to talk about the experience of those that played it, right? Which is kind of hard to access when we want to like talk about it in the like grander sense of its impact on the world. So we can only really indirectly do that. And there, sort of like how people talk about it on Twitter might be relatively relevant. But I think it's also very much about what people take with them after they played the game and what they do with it in the future, how it shapes them, right? How the legacy of this game influences other games, and you know, whether people like in the intimacy of their own lives keep coming back to it. Or rediscover it, right? Like a year down the line, 10 years down the line, and so forth and so forth. I play a lot of old games, and I watch a lot of old movies, and I read a lot of old books. Relatively old books and movies, of course, but you know, stuff that isn't modern, stuff that is certainly not contemporary anymore. And I think there's a great deal to take from these things and to learn from these things. Firstly, because I think there's great value in these things still. Their value is not determined, to me, or to sort of like the world of video games, or the world of like the media domain that surrounds these pieces of art, or pieces of media, whatever. The value in all of that does not come from how much people talk about it, right? Certainly not how much background hum and chatter there is. And that's just one thing that it doesn't really bother me that, you know, this idea keeps coming up of like a dead game, like because people don't concurrently play it a lot. And I think this only really makes sense for a multiplayer game, right? A game that relies on a multiplayer experience. Otherwise, why? Like, it does not matter whether the game's dead at all, right? Because it can still be great. It can still be absolutely great and amazing. And I truly do believe, you know, in also many words, that we shouldn't have conversations, or we can have these conversations, of course, but that we should like acknowledge that things have value beyond the ever moving wheels of the social media conversation. Like, and things also have value not just as something that, you know, rattles you up and gets you engaged, right? Because like with Clair Obscur, like a lot of the value isn't even about the game, but it's about people being like, look, like this indie dev made a good game, and all the big industry players, they just make shit, and that is unacceptable, or like they've been exposed, right? That's hair looks terrible. That's kind of like that's the narrative that we then end up engaging with, and that narrative is bad. I truly think it's just not good for us, because it makes everything about this, like, it takes something as beautiful and intimate as the experience you have with a game or any piece of art, like a movie, right? I think it does tend to happen less often with books, but it tends to make that experience into something that is just another item of social media engagement, of a short frenzy, and then it's gone. Instead of just like having the thing and letting it do something with you, to you, over a long period of time. And for that, you also you cannot and you should not judge it by whether it's being discussed on Twitter a lot. Like I said, we can make that part of the conversation, and we can, but I still think, like, fuck that. That's just stupid. Okay, I don't think we should ever take that argument serious. Which I suppose, since I complained about it, I might have taken it too serious. But I don't know. Maybe let me know what you think. I really feel like this has become sort of like an more and more common benchmark of the quality of something, and I think it's a terrible benchmark, and I think we should push back. Anyways, that's it for today. So it's another video in my daily upload challenge, and today, like, a completely different thing. Haven't done this before, like a short little, just not really a video essay, just a commentary rant, I suppose. And now I will have to edit this.